Here we are.
Well,
Hello.
welcome. Yes, I would like to officially welcome everyone to the Middleton Chambers Business Boost for January. We are happy to have you guys here and know this is an important topic. So just a few announcements before we go ahead and get started. So as you guys know, that down on the bottom left, there's a little microphone. So we would ask for the slash to be through there for you guys to be on mute for part of the presentation. Obviously, if you have questions, please feel free to ask them, and also utilize the chat. We'll be checking that throughout. And we would encourage you to turn your cameras on so we know that you guys are out there, and that can be done with a little video camera down on the bottom left. So I think that's it. Yeah, please feel free to ask questions during chat. We have a minor speaker change, but I think it's going to be great. We have actually Dan from NAMI is joining us this morning, Dan Van Bargen, and he's the Youth and Community Outreach Coordinator for NAMI. He has been working in the support of youth and families for over the past 20 years in various roles with state government, residential, and mental health treatment and leadership. And he also has a therapeutic education consultant. So with that, Dan, I would love to turn this over to you.
Good morning, everyone. It's sure a pleasure to be here and discuss this very important issue. Just kind of wanted to take a moment to thank Kristen for the invitation and to just kind of set up some things. So you might notice your chat feature. If you're familiar with these programs, please use it and ask questions as we go. I would like this to be more as interactive as possible, so there are no dumb questions, and please feel free to use that because it promotes a good conversation. I have about, I think 15 slides or so to kind of talk over. If we have questions as we go, that's just fine. If we want to wait till questions at the end, that's just fine. But I hope to make this a valuable use of your time this morning. So without further ado, I'm going to start presenting. So again, I'm Dan Von Bargen. Anna Moffat was coming today. She's awesome. She's a fantastic presenter and leader, and is doing wonderful things for Dane County in her efforts as the executive director of NAMI of Dane County. Some upcoming things that we're excited about is a lot of good interface and collaboration with the county itself, and really want to continue that trajectory. And so it's an exciting time to be part of NAMI Dane County specifically. Some objectives of our discussion today are, to kind of address some top concerns for all of us community members, review local and some national data about our current state of health, talk about that a little bit. Since many of you are here via the chamber and are either supervisors or directors or owners of businesses, some strategies for employers to support your employees briefly, individual strategies to maintain mental health during the pandemic for each and every one of us, discussion of some mental health resources in our community, and then a wrap up with some questions and answers. And as I said, we can wait till the end or we can take them as we go. I've done it both ways, and we'll probably answer them if it seems like a good time to answer it. So since we're talking about in the times of COVID here, we've all done it now for quite a long time, and we've either become adapted or we're really struggling or somewhere in between. But just a real reminder that this isn't forever. It's just right now. And we as a species are adapted to change and adapt, and we've already done so very well now. And I sure hope that we continue for the good of us all, and I have confidence that we will, and will flourish. So kind of getting into some top concerns in our community. As you can see, many individuals report experiencing high levels of anxiety due to financial uncertainty, all sorts of uncertainty, but financial being primary because we all have to pay our bills. People are reporting fear and anxiety in regards to loss of employment. If you lose your employment, you miss a few payments, apartments, it leads to housing. it's become a real issue. And I can tell you firsthand that on our NAMI kind of, it's not a crisis line per se, but it's kind of a support line. Crisis line is kind of run by Dane County, but we also offer, some consulting services, and there's a lot of it, and some real base problems I can see are emerging even in the few months that I've been here. The topics of the phone calls are going, certainly from mental health, but also like, hey, I am in trouble financially. I am concerned about losing my home, and I don't know what to do. And so I'm looking to sell my home. So there's all sorts of issues going on that are real baseline level support, food, shelter, future issues that are very concerning for people. Many of us find ourselves working from home, and then that in itself has its challenges, but then we're also trying to co-teach some of us are co-teaching our children, and that's created a high level of stress just within our family dynamic and our household sometimes. And again, some people have flourished and it's become a great time for people, and it's done wonders for their relationships. We've seen that. And then also you see kind of a real deterioration of what was once a healthy, family nucleus that's really struggling with these times. And then people with current mental health conditions, with COVID-19 and the isolation they're in, and all the different things that we all deal with every day, it just exacerbates and makes their fear about COVID-19 added to the list of their already high anxiety and sometimes depression. So it increases the difficulty for sure for them. And then isolation is really something that we've seen. I mean, just today, I was just checking phone calls. Just today, there was 4 people about just checking in. I just need an advocate. I'm looking just for someone to talk to. I'm very lonely. Those type of conversations are very real, and it seems to be certainly increasing since we all are, socially distancing. So. Got a little humor to this. Hopefully, I'm sure things will be back to normal by July. So a little humor inserted there. That's all and I'm off it right there. I thought that was funny. Some local data to consider. This is just from one from January, but this is referring to 2020's data. Some hospitalizations, or 804 incidents due to alcohol consumption, 1,738 due to opioid usage, and 1,044 due to self-inflicted harm. And that's just in recent times right here in Dane County. So you can see that, not that's a surprise to us, but this kind of shows that all of these issues are coming to fruition and are made worse by the pandemic. And if we look nationally, in regards to, this is from this CDC, 40% of US adults report that they are struggling with their mental health, and definitely increased substance use. And 31% reported symptoms of depression or anxiety, and 11% seriously considered completing suicide. So again, they're striking statistics that we're all faced with, and you may know right now somebody who's had that discussion with you or is struggling. So it's made it very real. Let's talk a little bit about mental health and some resources and supports that could be made available to you in the workplace. Now, specifically some strategies for employers. Obviously, communication is a huge deal. And it seems to me that certainly now, more than ever, to have an open line, an empathetic ear for your employees. And asking if you notice something, if you notice someone is acting differently, just take note of it. I would think when assessing this, certainly as a leader that I've been in the past, I always think, well, if it's a problem for a day, it's one thing. If it's a problem for a week, okay, people struggle. If it's a problem for a month, well, let me start really taking note. But if it goes 6, 8 weeks and you haven't seen a change, then it's time to kind of really have a hard conversation, not a hard conversation, but an empathetic conversation. As a practice, incorporate weekly virtual check-ins that include discussing mental wellness and stress levels. Encourage employees to keep cameras on during check-ins so that for all to see body language, because so much is lost in our virtual environment. We don't get to sit at a table and not just hear what people are saying verbally, but also read their reactions if we can't see them. Create a virtual community behavioral health resource board that employees can access if needed. This kind of brings me to, NAMI is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and it's a national organization, but it was founded right here in Dane County by 3 mothers. Some pretty cool history. So we just happen to be the founding chapter of NAMI. And our whole goal, one of our biggest goals, is to kind of end the stigma of mental illness, getting that out there and challenging, because it's not necessarily treated in the same way as other ailments. And so just back to this point, a virtual community like this might really help in ending that stigma. So that's a good suggestion. You can bring in experts and individuals with lived experience to talk more about mental health and decrease that stigma. You can encourage and practice, encourage employees to live a balanced work and home life with specific boundaries and how to go about doing that. And if comfortable, talk about your own mental health, or at the very least, model self-care that you want to see your employees engage in, that has been successful for you. So kind of back on us, all of us who have to, who are dealing day to day, either in a job or parenting or anything that takes energy. First and foremost, give yourself grace and accept that you will experience negative emotions at times. I mean, it happens. We all know that things are often very short term, and the way you feel this morning, by dinner time, you can feel a whole lot different. Practice physical distancing rather than social distancing. Educate yourself about local resources and organizations that provide behavioral health care. Establishing daily routines and habits has just been proven to both promote emotional and physical well-being, whether it's daily affirmations, positive conversations, going to the gym, going for a long walk, cycling, whatever it is that you do that makes you feel good, you should definitely do and prioritize it. And if you are already impacted by a behavioral health condition, review what your recovery plan was and update it to COVID times if necessary. Some of the rules that you set up for yourself in the past may not be enough, or they might, and so you might need to, advance what you're doing. And if you are struggling personally, it's a gift to reach out to a trusted person. That's what friends are there for. That's what they want. That's how they want to exhibit their care for you. So trust that. And if you're feeling low and blue, reach out to someone you trust, someone you know cares about you, and not just give yourself that, but give them that gift, because that's what it is.
Hey, Dan, we did have a question come in back when we were on the stats slide. So are there any statistics of completed suicides as a result of COVID or COVID related challenges? Do you guys get data like that?
I bet you we could find data like that if you, but going would be pure conjecture on my part. I would, though, just as a gut reaction to that, I would think yes. I don't know about in Dane County, but over in Ozaukee County, for instance, where I have some contacts, people that I've known have done that based on losing their business, losing everything. There's two individuals that come to mind right there. So I know that there's a direct result outside of Dane County, but I have not heard here in Dane County. It's a great question.
Looks like there's another comment question that came in too. So one of the issues, I feel it's an issue anyway, is that the first response to depression by the medical community seems to be a pill or an antidepressant. Is there any talk of maybe that not being the first line of defense, or anything that the medical community has shared in that aspect?
So again, this is my experience, and as a professional who's dealt with families, often their first line is they go to their family practitioner, who hears kind of what they're describing as depression and says, well, it's something you might want to try. I would, before, this is just a best practice that I would give advice to parents, is before, even if it's a young person or yourself, before trying medication right away, I would concurrently either set up an appointment to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist or a licensed clinical social worker. Any of those would be great. And let them also weigh in on that decision before taking those meds. That would be my recommendation. Kristen?
Yes.
And for some reason, I'm not seeing the chats, or when I click it,
Sure.
It's not allowing me to open them. So if you could help me, continue to help me with the chats.
I would be happy to. No problem.
Okay, so yeah, here we go. Some other ideas are intentional, quick mental health breaks. Both if we're all Zoom meeting all day long, or if we're on the floor at a manufacturing environment or in an office environment, perhaps if a pandemic's not going to do motivate to create something like this, I don't know what would, but collectively injecting this into your culture, where you're taking some breathing exercises, instilling some silliness like Anna did with her cat rays out of the eye slide she just had. She's good like that. Meditation, for instance, is a good one. Meditation of promotion of meditation, taking 10 minutes extra a day and giving that to your employees, say. Promotion of physical exercise, taking a walk outside. So the questions posed here, ask yourself, what do you do? And if you benefited from it, there's good cause to think that others will benefit from it as well.
Yeah, so if you guys have something that you've done that's helped you, drop it into chat. We'd love to see those.
Since we talked a little bit about suicide, and it is so at the forefront right now, sadly. I was just going to talk a little bit about some myths versus some facts. Some myths about suicide. If you ask someone about suicide, they're more likely to complete suicide. And the fact is that asking someone about suicidal ideation decreases the likelihood of an attempt. The key behind this one is that if you engage with somebody about that topic, suicide, and you have a conversation and you think you've got them to a point where, okay, they've committed to some safety, be sure within a couple of days to follow up with that conversation. That really is essential. Myth: people that complete suicide do so because they want to die. Fact: people complete suicide because they are trying to end the pain they're experiencing in that moment or a series of moments. I can't speak for everyone who does this, obviously. I've been fortunate not to have this feeling in my life. However, again, it just comes back to catching people, trusting your gut. If you feel it, have that conversation, and then make sure to have a follow-up conversation. Last one, myth: there is no way to tell someone is thinking about ending their life. In fact, in most cases, there are definitely identifiable viable behaviors and actions taken by someone prior to a suicide attempt. Always in retrospect, people see that. All of us either have been directly or indirectly affected by suicide. And when you hear that story, you often hear, oh, if I would just have recognized that. So if you sense it, trust it, act. Before I get into resources, Kristen, were there anything in the chat? I just still can't open it for some reason. It won't let me.
Nope, I think people are just sharing some ways that they kind of take those mental breaks and things that have worked for them. So that's kind of fun to see.
Great. I wish I could see it. I really do. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share them with you afterwards. Walking or working from a coffee shop for 1 day a week or half a day, getting out in nature, taking a walk. Someone's doing a journal at home and kind of just helps them take a look at those thoughts and feelings or have. Seeing a therapist has been a huge help, and also pausing from social media communication and work apps after 8 p.m., taking a walk on a treadmill, even if it's for 5 minutes. So some good stuff.
It's good. I tell you what, I don't necessarily suffer from depression, but certainly malaise creeped in as we were working from home. And my wife and I are walking about 40 miles a week, and it really has changed the way I feel. That exercise, not that I've always exercised in my life over the years, of course, been active in sports, etc. But being intentional about it here has really helped me. I'll say that. Looking over some resources that we have nationally, also locally. So the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This is something that if you are talking with somebody who you are worried about, to give them this number. So it's one of those things that you could do is you provide them with this number, send it to them via text. Just say, hey, just remember there's people out there for you. If it's not me, please, so and so, help you. It's a crisis text line there, 741-741. Journey Mental Health Crisis Line here in Madison. The Solstice House Swarm Line, and the Monarch Bilingual Crisis Line.
And is that crisis text line, is that local or is that a national?
That's a national one.
Okay, it's nice to see some local numbers on there too.
But I think though that you'd see with that text one that it would somehow default to local supports.
Got it.
Yeah. And then some local mental health resources here. We have NAMI Dane County, of course, Dane County Health Services, Recovery Dane. This that I keep with me, it's in my bag with my laptop all the time. It's Navigating the Dane County Mental Health System. You can get this at the county, or if you want NAMI Dane County to send you one of these, this is very helpful. It's a great resource that was put together. That gives a lot of good information for specific things and a very quick way to get it. So it's also online, but it does seem to work. I seem to use it. One of the few things that I use paper still in this job, I notice, is this one. That was the United Way, Dane County Behavioral Health Resource Center. It's a great one, actually, and you might even find this here. Sorry, I don't have the link for this with me, but the navigation one. So if you have any questions, please contact us. This is Anna's contact here. Mine would be the same phone number, and the same contact one would work for me as well, Dan Von Bargen. But I'm just Dan at NAMIDaneCounty.org. So if you want to email me directly, please do at Dan at NAMIDaneCounty.org.
Perfect. Well, at this time, we'd love to open it up to questions. Please feel free to take yourself off of mute and ask those questions. This is the time for sharing, or if there's things that you're doing within your organization, we would love to hear about them as well.
What's the difference between, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between physical distancing and social distancing?
Physical distancing and social distancing. Well, I know social distancing, we all know what that is. I don't know. Are you referring to the slide that was there?
Yes, I said.
So full disclosure, this is not my slideshow. However, I represent Dane County. When I saw that, I just moved on to the next because I don't know.
I think, you know, that's a great question. I think for me, because that's one of the things that I wrote down from this. So for me, physical distancing is something we all have to do, right? We have to stay 6 feet apart. We have to, you know, not interact with people outside of our household. But that doesn't mean that we can't be social, right? We don't have to socially distance ourselves from our friends or from our colleagues or from people in our neighborhood. We can find a way to connect with them socially, even though we're physically apart.
That's it, Kristen. I'm sure that's what.
I'm sure that's
right. So it's like, it's a mind shift, because for almost a year we've been hearing the word social distancing, but that's maybe not the best way to phrase it, right? Like, we need to physically distance, but I can still call you on the phone, and I can still send you a letter. I can send you a postcard. We could cook someone had it, I think Nicole said, cook a meal over Zoom with your friends. Like, how fun is that?
We've done that. Yeah.
Yes. I like that. I can wave. Even when I'm physically distancing, I can wave to you anyway.
Yep, absolutely. You can still say hello or thank you.
Over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like we had another question that came in chat. So the news this morning talked about the increase of death of youth. Some students don't turn on their video, so how do teachers know there's a problem? And does the teacher have the tools to recognize a student in trouble? And do teachers work with you?
So yes, so I was hired actually to specifically engage the schools in Dane County, and we've already got 9 on board. And I actually did present to a parent group of Middleton and Middleton high school parents just recently. And we will be doing what's called Raise Your Voice groups in schools, and Middleton has requested that we have one, and that is a student-led with adults present peer support group. So that is going on. To answer your specific question, I have a daughter who's still in high school, and I hear the teachers saying most frequently, "Does everybody turn their cameras on?" So they do lay eyes on. But what I have seen in my initial work with NAMI, and then certainly since as I was a educational consultant, I do see increased engagement by school psychologists and guidance counselors in more frequent check-ins, some even including parents. So I feel like certainly locally in Dane County that the school psychologist teams that high schools and junior high schools have, I can't speak to elementary schools, are recognizing this, increasing awareness and getting this out front. So, and so I think that it's increasingly, the concern is increased, thus the effort is increased to reach out to students who they are extra concerned about, especially.
Good, wonderful.
Dan, another question for you. What would be some of the ways as business owners that we could partner or utilize NAMI?
Sure. So, well, the first way that we can do that is we can come specifically to your business, do a presentation similar to this one to your larger employees, have another discussion like this, and then could even engage with leadership if they wanted to put some ongoing supports in place. And we do peer support groups for adults. We have different trainings that you could train a staff person with, per se. Like one's called peer-to-peer or family-to-family, that NAMI does these trainings. Then you can become a facilitator. And so if you wanted to have it internally happen where you're doing some lay support, not therapy, that would be the wrong word, but lay support communal support of each other. We can assist you in that. We'd also encourage any business to become a NAMI member, not just for a benefit, but then you can access all these national resources and tools that you can use as well. So that'd be the #1 way to do it.
Good.
One thing I was going to just share for anybody who's looking for ways to try to connect with their employees. My company we've been searching for ways to connect when possible. We started doing social hours on a virtual element, which it gets tough when you don't have something to work on. And there's my daughter's in the background, so you might see her as well. And we started coming up with some ideas to try to make those social hours a little bit more fun. So one thing we did was, everyone seems to be a fan of the movie Princess Bride. So we did a trivia game on Princess Bride. We did a whole event where people could bring 4 or 6 of their favorite photos from anywhere or about anything, and then they would share about what those photos meant to them. Some did vacations, some did hobbies. Can you please not do that? Thank you. And it was a nice way to just kind of connect creatively and have some funny and silly stories to laugh, kind of that moment that you had mentioned about being silly. Those have been fairly positive and helpful.
That's great feedback, great to know.
Good one.
Sounds like you should keep it up with that creativity. It sounds like it might be paying off.
Perfect. Well, does anyone else have any other questions for us today?
Have you ever thought about using cake as a point of contact? When you have those groups that go to the homes to speak to the children, to make sure they are okay, do they bring anything with them? Maybe like cake?
Maybe like, I'm sorry, I missed what you said. Maybe like
Cake? It would make me happy.
cake,
Being-
C-A-K-E.
Yeah, C-A-K-E, chocolate or red velvet, you get your choice.
Might be the idea of the day, right? Yes. Please bring cake. Yes. No, I think that would be a wonderful idea. Of course, it brightens everybody up, right?
It brightens everybody up. You
It
see?
does. It does
Yes.
indeed.
I'll join your team. Well, I'm from Delaware.
Please do. Please do. It sounds, and you can bring
First of
cake
all-
as many times as you want.
Well, what I did too a few months ago is join the Rotary Club again, and also the Optimist Club. And so having those social meetings every single week is nice. You know, we play different games on them. We have speakers, you know, so I think that, and there's a lot of fellowship and fun and laughter, and people share personal experiences. So that's really been helpful. So while you're not together in the same room, you are together talking on the screen, you know, on the computer, and you can still see each other and
Yeah.
still laugh and see how the other person's expressions are.
Absolutely. And I've heard a lot of people who've really adapted well to this environment and are saying now, and I don't know if it'll hold, but I almost prefer it, some of them say. And I'm like, really? And I think that's a slippery slope. And I hope that we don't get too used to this so that we don't come together in the future when we can.
Yeah.
The only reason that's true, probably, Dan, like our Rotary and our Optimists, we have people that are maybe spending the winter in the South. So now they can join in too, where before they couldn't. So, you know, in some cases, it's almost like even when you start meeting a person, maybe you had to set up a camera to have other people be able to zoom in.
That's a great point.
It's a great idea.
Or, you know, we've got a couple that, you know, one is in a nursing home now and another one had a bad accident. And
Yes.
so, you know, they're able to join in where otherwise they wouldn't be able to.
Well, oh yes, wonderful. How to utilize this community, this virtual community. Oh my, it's exciting. Mhm.
Well, I want to
Listen.
again thank you guys all for coming. Just want to do a few wrap up things. So if people need to head out, they can, but we are happy to stay on and keep the conversation going. So a huge thank you to Dan and NAMI of Dane County for coming with these thoughts and sharing everything. I will be sending out a link to the recording from today, as well as the slides for you guys to have as a resource. And I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors for today's program. So a huge thank you to TDS, Park Bank, and the QTI Group.